If you look closely at the biochemistry of human belief, you'll find a strange paradox. The internal physical sensation of absolute, unwavering faith and the sensation of pure clinical delusion are identical. We are biologically wired to trust that internal glow of certainty. When we feel deeply that we are making the right choice, we assume that feeling is a compass pointing toward truth, validating our actions in real time. But the differentiator between the two has nothing to do with how you feel. It comes down to the outcome. If your conviction saves you, society calls it faith. If it destroys you, they call it delusion. Because the internal state matches either way, trying to evaluate the objective validity of your own conviction while you are still in the middle of the process is an illusion. Thousands of years ago, Hindu mythology constructed an intellectual case study designed entirely around this problem of measuring conviction. The deities Lord Shiva and Mata Parvati present their two sons with a massive challenge, a race around the entire universe. The first one to complete the circuit wins. The trap in this challenge relies on subjective cosmology. The parents gave the command, but they intentionally left a vacuum in the rules. They never established a shared definition of what constitutes the universe. Both sons possess unshakable certainty about how to win, but because they carry wildly different definitions of what the universe actually is, they are going to take entirely opposing paths. The stakes are absolute. The judges will only validate one outcome. Whoever wins will have their conviction historically recorded as profound wisdom, while the loser's effort will be dismissed as a total delusion. The first son, Kartikeya, reacts immediately. He mounts his peacock and launches himself outward to physically traverse the track. His certainty is rooted entirely in external physical laws. To him, victory is a straightforward calculation of distance traveled, maximum speed, and immense physical exertion. This map shows his logic. Defining the universe as objective, physical space means conquering it requires covering every metric unit. The time required for this literal interpretation is infinite. Every galaxy and void must be manually crossed. From Kartikeya's perspective, his actions are perfectly logical and devoid of any delusion, provided you accept his foundational premise, that the universe is strictly an external space. The second son, Ganesha, takes a contrasting approach. Instead of rushing outward, he refuses to move, remaining perfectly still in the sanctuary with his parents. From the perspective of an external observer, his next move looks like a technicality, a lazy excuse, or pure delusion compared to his brother's flight. He simply gets up and walks in a small circle around his parents. This illustrates Ganesha's conceptual pivot. His premise dictates his parents aren't merely inhabitants inside the universe. They are the source and totality of it. By circumambulating the source, his action aligns flawlessly with his definition. He has traversed the whole. Delusion only exists when a person's actions contradict their own internal definition of reality. Because Ganesha's stationary walk perfectly matches his subjective definition, his inner conviction is exactly as valid as his brother's. Kartikeya eventually returns from his exhaustive physical journey, completely drained, only to discover that the stationary Ganesha has already claimed victory. Lord Shiva and Parvati deliver their ruling. They validate Ganesha's conceptual leap, agreeing that defining the universe by its source is a higher truth than defining it by sheer physical acreage. Consider the alternate timeline. If the judges had rejected Ganesha's conceptual definition, history would have recorded his stationary walk differently. It would be mocked as the delusion of a boy who simply refused to run. It is the acceptance of the outcome by reality that transforms apparent delusion into immortalized faith. In our own pursuits, it is dangerous to use the internal feeling of rightness or the sheer amount of physical effort we expend to measure the validity of a path. The true task of conviction is not running faster. It requires ruthlessly auditing your foundational definitions of reality before you take the first step. We are all writing our own definitions of the universe, but history and reality will judge us strictly by the outcomes those definitions produce.